Anything negative, turn it into something positive. Transforming the negative energy, which could be destructive to myself or maybe other people around me, taking it, alchemy, you know, changing it into something else. So I used all that.
What was going on in your head? Were you going into the set, through the set, were you thinking about your dad, how you were an underdog? Yeah. Were you just thinking about the muscle? What were you using besides listening to loud music?
When I started bodybuilding in the 1980s, I don't think the general public really knew about steroids. I use a special type of motivation. It's called you motivation. You. To all the teachers at school that said you couldn't get anywhere. Anyone. So I'm going to show you. Do we know any like elite level athletes that came from a very comfortable, wealthy family? I don't know any. Well, I'm not saying there isn't, but I don't know any.
They feel like they have to fill their father's shoes.
Yeah.
There's going to be a phase where they're competing with their dad no matter what.
Whatever you got inside you, anger, negative emotions, use it all. Use it all like fire.
The bodies that are in movies have changed tremendously. I mean, the average size of a male or female, the shape is so much more bodybuilder-esque now.
Yeah, it's like everyone's using juice, right? You know, it's mainstream now. When I started bodybuilding in the 1980s, I don't think the general public really knew about steroids, or, you know, they got a little inkling when Ben Johnson got a positive. Now it's mainstream, right? Everybody knows about steroids, and I think it's seen as by males as a cosmetic enhancement, just like females putting blush pants in or Botox and or whatever they put in their lips and everything to make that change. So it's mainstream. You got rappers, you got movie stars, like they want to get in shape for a movie. Come on, man, and it's not happening in 2 months, that transformation, without some chemical help, which, you know, they're earning millions in the movie,
sure.
So maybe it's worth it for them, of course.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned you have a thick skin. One of the things that got me to learn about you early on, because frankly, I was involved in other things, a little bit of martial arts, some soccer, some things, and bodybuilding to me wasn't something I really wanted to pursue as a sport, but I wanted to put on muscle. I was a tall, skinny kid. That's what led me to Menser and how I learned about your training, discovered what you were doing, and then really learned to extract what I think is the best of bodybuilding for somebody who doesn't want to do it. Like, how are they training? How are they eating? What are they doing that's separate from the drugs that I can benefit from? This kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And to be fair, TRT can be very useful to treat depression and other things for men, and in some cases even women. We'll get back to that, but I want to just kind of frame this in a certain way. However, you know, one of the things that I think drew me to what you were doing at the time is that you had this kind of like mellow, sort of, or I would say kind of like quiet, thick-skinned stance. We also have kind of commonalities through our music tastes. So I saw that and I recognized certain things
get that punk
in the tattoos,
me, man,
the punk rock thing. Oi music and that kind of thing. And so you go, oh, here's somebody who's kind of different than the rest of this community. But when people see the videos of you training, we'll put some links to those. It's so striking because you're like this, but then in the moment of a set, it's like, I mean, intensity doesn't quite explain it. It's like, and I'm curious because people can see those videos. What was going on in your head? Were you going into the set, through the set, were you thinking about, I'm just guessing, your dad, how you were an underdog? Yeah. Were you just thinking about the muscle? What were you using besides listening to loud music? And intensity doesn't come from nowhere. It comes from someplace. What's your internal narrative at those times?
Well, I always prepared myself before I went to the gym. Just walk through the doors casually. I'd review my training before I went there. This is what I did last week. This is what I want to do today. And I would sit and do a visualization. So I'd have specific clothes for the day and like OCD maybe. And I used to have this thing, which seems strange to me now, yeah? I used to iron my clothes before I went to the gym, right? They had to be ironed, they had to be thin. And I just read a study how ironing clothes really lowers your cortisol by about 40%. I didn't know that. I was just doing it. I trained with my friend in New York. He's like, what the you doing, man? Just put your t-shirt on. No, I got to iron it. There was a whole game preparation going on to get me in maybe OCD, maybe too much, but it worked for me, yeah? So I review, go to the gym, and have my targets, and I use a special type of motivation. It's called motivation. To all the teachers at school that said you couldn't get anywhere, anyone. So I'm going to show you. So motivation is a great one, yeah? Whatever you got inside you, anger, negative emotions, use it all. Use it all like fire. And then when I go home, I'm like, shoot. I've slayed dragons in the gym. I've hacked people up with my sword. And it's like a form of mastery over oneself. Mastery over the whole thing with the dieting as well for competitions. Maybe I went a little bit overboard with it and came down a little bit too much, because then it was like mastery over my instincts to want to eat and do I do that? No, I'm deciding here. I'm in control. And maybe this worked against me a bit as well, because I would be like going to the work. I don't care if I feel a little, I'm going through it, you know? So, I used all these anger, negative emotions, whatever it is. I'll show you. I'm going to make it. I'm going to do this. So whatever works for you. But for me, that worked. You know, anything negative, turn it into something positive. You know, it's transforming the negative energy, which could be destructive to myself or maybe other people around me, taking it, alchemy, you know, changing it into something else. So I used all that negative feeling, negative emotions. And I stayed in Birmingham as well while I was Mr. Olympia for 6 years. More opportunities here and everything, but more distractions as well. So I wanted to stay in the same gym, try to keep that same attitude, even though I got more money in the bank and I'm driving a Mercedes instead of jumping on the bus, right? But I wanted to keep that. That's why I didn't move over here. A lot of people ask me, why I didn't go to the States? Because the industry's there. But by the time I got to be Mr. Olympia, I could kind of dictate things. So I did what I wanted to do, which was keep my head down and keep that hunger going.
I love the transmutation of anger, and everyone's got their stories of and I can remember in the 3rd grade, someone said something about the jacket that my mom gave me that day to wear. Like these little things, I mean, they don't bother me anymore, but there were times when, we can layer in.
It's fuel, man. Use it for fuel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Take that anger, the negative thing, whatever, change it into something positive. And we were discussing earlier, like, do we know any like elite level athletes that came from a very comfortable, wealthy family? I don't know any. Well, I'm not saying there isn't, but I don't know any.
Maybe
you
need
that.
Or something,
you need that motivation. You know, you want to make something. You want to make something of your life. You want to prove to yourself and everybody else, that you've got something. And when I was young, I looked at life around me. I thought, what is this? I'm going to get a mate, have some children, go to work, come back. For a lot of people, this is great. Maybe the love of the family and everything like that. But I didn't have that. Even when I had a family, it wasn't a family. I never, my mom and dad were kind of together because it was the 60s. But I got the idea that, that was because of me, maybe. So we never sat down and had a meal as a family. Never. So Mom and Dad were married, but they were leading kind of separate lives, and I was in the middle somewhere, I guess. So if I didn't have that motivation, maybe my dad would have taught me to be a maintenance, car engineer or something. I don't know. It would be a whole different story, I'm sure.
A friend of mine, we were talking recently about having daughters versus sons. I won't provide the context for this, and he said to me, he's got 3 daughters, and he's very happy with his 3 daughters. And he said, the one thing about sons is they feel, I think he was talking about himself, they feel like they have to fill their father's shoes. Yeah. There's going to be a phase where they're competing with their dad no matter what. Yeah. And my reflexive response was, nah. And then I realized, listen, I went through all that stuff, And in many ways, my dad and I are on good terms now, but we had some choppy years in there, but for sure. But now we're good. But the friction, I mean, that grew me a lot too.
Yeah.
I mean, it forced me to work harder. I mean, there were probably some long nights that, I wasn't consciously tying it to like, oh, I'm trying to, outdo him. But I pushed myself to become somebody that was at least as, successful in certain ways and ideally more. And so do you think this is a real thing? I think
every situation can go two ways, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean, you have a son now. So how do you think about this with him?
I think he found it tough. Mm-hmm. He confides with my wife a little bit that he found it tough. Like, I'm like, don't try to compete with me in what I do, but take the principles of discipline and hard work, and you can apply that really to anything. But yeah, I think, my son did some bodybuilding. He was playing with the idea of competing, which he probably could have done quite well at. But I said, look, you're a sensitive guy, yeah? Much more sensitive than me. I got thick skin. But let me tell you what will happen if you compete. You win? Of course he won, it's Dorian's son. You lose? How can he lose? It's Dorian's son. I said, either way, you be prepared for, that's going to be the reaction. So, if you want to do it, I'll support you. But he decided not to get into the competitive side of things. Mm-hmm. He trains people and stuff. So, there's still, both of my kids are in the fitness world, let's say. But competitive world is a different thing. And there's very few people that can get to the top and make it work for them, Mm-hmm. More people now, because before you had to compete and you had to win and you had to be in the magazines. Now a lot of people can make money online coaching or whatever it is. So there's more avenues now that you can go into to make money. Mm-hmm. In what's called now the fitness industry is so much bigger than when I was competing, but I would say purist bodybuilding is less people doing it. More people going to the gym and doing fitness in general. But I think bodybuilding per se was more popular in the 80s and 90s because it was all new. And there was no CrossFit, there was no MMA, things have changed since then. There was no fitness Mr. Olympia, there's no, I don't know, they've got so many classes now. So there's many more things for people to do than, maybe they figure it's not worth it to be a competitive bodybuilder if you can earn an income online and not, put yourself online in competition. So things have changed a lot since then.